Hi everyone, welcome back. I just wanted to give my thoughts on the latest Radiohead album after my first ever listen to it. It's called A Moon-Shaped Pool. Now, I was going to do a track-by-track breakdown, but upon listening to the full album and writing down all of my thoughts on this, I just don't think it would do justice to the album, as I feel this album should be viewed as one piece rather than as individual tracks. So let's start with my overall impressions of it. Now, in this album, there is a lot less anger and frustration, certainly from Tom York's vocals, and a lot more peace throughout the album. And this is also reflected in song styles as well. It's a lot less angst and a lot less sort of frustration and rage that we've seen in a lot of previous Radiohead albums. Now, for me, the album is definitely a lot more stripped back, which, bearing in mind some of the tracks have been kicking around since before Kid A, in fact, some of them have been kicking around for 20 years, is not surprising. Now, Radiohead are known for meticulously working on their songs. It's not just a case of adding to the music, but stripping back what they don't feel is necessary in a track anymore. And this is definitely the case in these albums. These are so, I don't want to use the word simplistic, but they're minimalistic. There's not a wasted note. There's not a wasted lyric in it. Now, what we've seen here is the piano and strings are taking centre stage, and the guitar work in it is a lot more subtle, and there's a lot more in the classical vein as well. I think a lot of this has come down to Johnny Greenwood's work on film scores. I know he's worked a lot with Paul Thomas Anderson as well, and I think that's definitely prevalent in a lot of these songs. Now, a lot of the electronic stylings have been relegated to the background as well, and throughout the album. Normally, in a lot of recent Radiohead works, a lot of the electronics have been in the foreground, especially in the likes of, certainly since Hail to the Thief, but definitely in The King of Limbs and in Rainbows. And like I said, this should be viewed as almost one singular song rather than individual pieces, in a similar style to an album like the Tour de France by Kraftwerk. Now, lyrically, the theme of lost love is just prevalent throughout the whole album, and this is a brand new take on by Radiohead, and generally just seems to be a lot more peaceful. It's not a happy album by any stretch of the imagination, but there's a lot of peace in there. Now, I understand that in the process of writing this album, Tom York split up with his partner of 23 years, and longtime producer Nigel Godrich lost his father, which basically sums the whole album up. It seems to be dealing about loss on so many levels and learning to move on without the most important people to your life. Now, as I said before, this is hugely personal and is exceptionally touching. The lyrics, certainly on Daydreaming, Full Stop, Desert Island Disc, Present Tense, and the numbers, not to mention True Love Waits, they all scream of losing the closest people to you, and this is so sad. It's heartbreaking in many respects, and I've never seen a Radiohead album do something that's so personal to them. It's always been about a state, very political stuff, a lot of stuff about the environment. We don't get this, or at least if it is there, it's very subtle, and it's not the main point of the album. Now, talking about some of the tracks on there that I've mentioned previously, Burn the Witch, which was the first single to be released on the album, along with the music video, it almost doesn't belong on this album, as it's so different from every other track on the album, and it feels like it could have been maybe on something more like In Rainbows. Don't get me wrong, it's still a great track, and this is the probably most identifiably Radiohead-esque song on the album. However, it's so different to everything on the track that it doesn't belong on this album. I'm happy they released it though, but it's so far removed from the rest of the album. Now, Radiohead, when they were releasing some statements about this, said this album would be completely different to anything that we've heard before, and certainly they have not released anything like this before. This is so different from every other Radiohead album. There are shades of Kid A running through it, in my opinion, but you will not find any of these tracks on any that could fit into any other previous Radiohead album. Now, the album is going to need a lot more listening to it, but the personal nature of the lyrics, and along with the practical U-turn on style, means this is definitely a Radiohead album for the ages, and the most beautiful, I mean, seriously, the most gorgeous album they've ever produced. I suppose, I say it's a complete U-turn, but then again, Radiohead have made a career out of U-turning on everything they've done, so that kind of makes sense in the world. Now, I'm going to cap this off with one concern I have on this album. It's nothing to do with the album itself, but more with what it represents. Now, Radiohead have not been a band that do fan service in any of their albums. They're a band who simply do the music that they want, that they like, that is to them, that expresses who they are, and they just hope their fans like it. And in this album, though, they have finally given fans proper releases of the likes of True Love Waits and Identikit, songs that have been kicking around for ages, but they've never put on a record. Now, my worry is that this might indicate a final album for them. And this is their final thank you to the fans for supporting them through the years that they've finally given fan service. I hope to God this isn't the case, but it is a worry that is lingering in the back of my mind, and I hope to God it's just me being paranoid and just thinking, oh Christ, this could be the end of it. Overall, though, this album is spectacular. I can't say enough good things about it. Yes, I'm a Radiohead fan. I haven't been as keen on a lot of their recent stuff as previous albums. You know, for me, The Bends is my favourite album. I'm probably the only person that thinks that. Not to say their recent albums have been bad by any stretch of the imagination. They've all been excellent. But for me, I have been more of a Bends kind of fan. And probably Kid A as well, I would say. But, you know, who isn't? So this, to me, is phenomenal. It's an album for the ages. And I hope to God they get back in the recording studio very soon, and my worries are completely unfounded. But guys, that's my review of the album. I would love to hear what other people say. I would be great to get a dialogue going. I wanna have discussions about this. I want to talk about this. I talk about this with some of my friends already. So guys, stick your name down, stick a comment down below, and I hope to be hearing from everyone soon. Thanks a lot for listening, guys.